Hi, I'm Kaylee, and today I'm going to tell you my best and worst books that I read in 2018. In case you didn't know, Books for MKs is a charity that donates books to missionary kids. If you want to donate to the kids, you can donate at GoFundMe.com. There's a link down in the description, there's a card right up here, and there's a button at the end of this video where you can donate to the kids. I had a pretty good reading year in 2018. I'm really kind of proud of myself. I read some really great books, and then inevitably there were those books that were disappointing and that were just awful. I think only one or two of them that I actually had to DNF. So let's just get straight into it. I have 10 of my best reads from 2018 and 10 of my worst reads from 2018. So I'm gonna try to go through these really quickly. Let's get the worst ones out of the way first because we just wanna get them out of the way. One of the absolute worst things that I read this past year. Oh, please don't hate me because I know some of you love this series. It's the Alanna series by Tamora Pierce. The thing is, and I will link my review of all of these somewhere up above and down below, but I could really see the potential in these books and they could have been wonderful, and there were just a couple of things that I really hated. I mean, hated so much. And yeah, it just ruined it. It ruined the whole series, and I think I gave three stars to the first book and 2 stars to the rest of the books in this quartet. Another terrible book that I read this past year that I really wanted to love, but it just, it's Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. So much hatred, so much. This book just, no, it's not Disney's Pinocchio. It is really awful. The story structure is terrible. Pinocchio is a awful character. He's a cheat and a liar, and he never learns his lesson. He's ungrateful. He's such a brat, and I hated him. The story structure is awful. The magic system makes no sense. It's just terrible writing. Another one that a lot of you probably really love, but that I did not enjoy, was the Infernal Devices graphic novels. Now, I have not read the Infernal Devices, but I thought, maybe I'll just dip my toe into the Cassandra Clare waters, and I'll try out the graphic novels, and then if I really like them, then I'll try, actually diving into the actual novels, because at this point, I kind of feel like nobody got time for that. I don't want to dive into it because there's so many books in all those series. So I tried out the graphic novels, and it was okay, but I just didn't really grab my attention. I didn't really care about any of the characters. It wasn't that great. I have several books that I received from authors, from self-published authors, in exchange for a free and honest review. And as happens many times with self-published authors, it's just not that good because they don't have an editor, or maybe they hired an editor, but it still just needs help. So I have several of those books that I'm just going to tell you the titles. And they weren't good because the writing wasn't good and it just needed an editor. I read Thicket, which it was incomprehensible. I couldn't make heads or tails of what the writing was trying to say. It was so verbose, it's like they were really trying too hard. I read Jory and the Magic Stones, which had a good story idea. It just needed some better execution. I read The Crystal Navigator, which was sort of the same deal, had a good story idea, but the story structure just didn't gel somehow. It was okay. Another graphic novel series that I read was the Artemis Fowl series. Now, I love the Artemis Fowl novels. I absolutely love Artemis Fowl. I think I've read through the entire series twice. I just think they're hilarious and so clever. It's a story about a human boy who is trying to steal fairy gold. It is set in modern times and fairies are in hiding, and it's just delightful. So I had high expectations from the graphic novels, and I was bitterly disappointed. The artwork is weird. The stories just don't translate well to graphic novel form. It just really was the artwork. I really hated the artwork. Just no. And I have 3 more classics that made it onto my worst list. Unfortunately, one of them is Charles Dickens. Oh no. Because you know I love Dickens. And for a Dickens novel to end up on my worst of the year list, it's just, oh. But it is Barnaby Rudge. I hated Barnaby Rudge. I forced myself to read it through to the end, and I did not enjoy it. I mean, that being said, it's still Dickens, like it's still good, but I guess, you know, I have really high expectations with Dickens because I really do love his works. But Barnaby Rudge did not deliver. I gave it 2 stars. I just didn't like any of the characters. The plot was really boring. If you haven't read very much Dickens, definitely do not start with Barnaby Rudge. Start with one of the good ones. Another classic that I tried to read was Innocents Abroad by Mark Twain. This is these sort of sarcastic, hilarious letters or articles that Mark Twain wrote when he went on a trip abroad in Europe. And he sent these letters or articles back to his newspaper and they published them. The thing is with this one, it's just really boring. There's all these long descriptions of like monuments and people. This is one of the few books that I DNF'd this year. I just couldn't get through it. It was just so hefty and lengthy and long-winded descriptions where I would read one paragraph and I would want to fall asleep. I mean, usually Mark Twain is hilarious. I love Mark Twain. But I don't know if this was just because this was before he really became a novelist. This was back when he was a reporter. And so it just didn't have, maybe his writing style just hadn't, you know, developed enough yet or something. I don't know. I didn't like it. And the last classic, well, modern classic that I read that I did not like was Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. And I will link my review to that above and down below. Yeah. Ray Bradbury and I have never gotten along. I've read 3 of his books now, and I am never going to read another one because I really hate his writing style. So just done with Ray Bradbury. So those are the 10 books that were my worst books of 2018. And now let's get on to the good stuff, the best books of 2018. Now, I will say that I reread a lot of favorites in 2018, which naturally would have dominated this list. So I did not include rereads on this list. I only included books that were new to me that I read in 2018 that were my favorites. Probably right at the very, very top of this list, I mean really close to the top of this list, is the Wind in the Willows series by William Horwood. These are sequels to The Wind in the Willows, and they're done in such an excellent style. I mean, it feels like Kenneth Graham's writing style, and I just loved reading every single one of these books. I think I gave them all 5 stars because I love The Wind in the Willows, and revisiting all of these wonderful riverbank characters was so fantastic. Mole and the water rat and the badger and all of them. I just loved it. Another great one that I read in 2018 was Fridays with Wizards. I read this one as part of my trying to finish series goal, and this is part of the Castle Glower series. I love these kind of fairy tale worlds with a magic castle, and it's just, every book in this series is so fantastic. I really liked Fridays with Wizards. I read Robin McKinley's Outlaws of Sherwood. I really, really enjoyed this one. It is a Robin Hood retelling, and it follows the basic, plot line of the Robin Hood story, but with some really interesting little twists that you're just like, whoa, when did that happen, you know? And a lot of depth to the characters that just brings in like this whole other level to the Robin Hood story. I was completely blown away and gave it 5 stars. The 2 Dickens novels that make it onto this list of the best ones, the best Dickens that I read in 2018 are Our Mutual Friend and Martin Chuzzlewit. I loved both of these so much. I mean, Dickens is always fantastic, but these two are definitely going to stay with me for a long time. Dickens writes such memorable characters, so you know it's going to stay in your head for quite a while. Two other classics that I read also make it onto this list. I really loved Lorna Doone, and it's all this like old-fashioned adventure and mystery, and there's bandits, and it's just so wonderful. And the other one that I fell in love with this year is Frederick Marriott's Peter Simple. This is a story of a young man who goes to sea. The British are at war with the French. It's just wonderful high seas adventure. There's pirates and treasure and, war with the French and spies and hurricanes and just constant action. And I loved the characters so much. This one is going to be a forever favorite. A fantasy book that I read that I really loved is the sequel to Juliette Marillier's Wildwood Dancing, and that is Sybil's Secret. I have been putting off reading this one for quite a while. I mean, like for years. I read Wildwood Dancing, 4 or 5 years ago and loved it and just never picked up the sequel because I know how Juliette Marillier just packs an emotional punch. Like you have to be emotionally ready to dive into one of her books because it will give you the worst book hangover. And I think the only book hangover I got this past year was because of Sybil's Secret. A couple of middle grade books that I really loved this last year. One of them was the Shield, Sword, and Crown trilogy. This is set sort of in like almost like a Renaissance era, and there's a very subtle magic system going on. It's not like woohoo spells and magic. It's a very more subtle, like natural magic that comes from your connection with the earth and things like that. I really loved this. It's about these 3 children who meet and sort of end up on this quest to find these magical artifacts from the ancient past. I gave every book in this series 4 stars. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. The magic system is so cool, and there's all this amazing world building and history, with these ancient artifacts that they're looking for. I would really love to read more from Hilary Bell because this series was great, and I would love to read more of her books. And the last one that I have to tell you about is the other middle grade, which was Door to the Lost. I gave this book 5 stars. It's about these children who have sort of magically transported to this world from their own world, and they're the only ones with magic. And so they are shunned and they're discriminated against because they have magic. They have no memory of where they came from, and so they're just basically street children trying to make a living. And it's kind of amazing how you find out about their past, and there's some of them are sort of banding together, just trying to survive on the streets. And it's just really, really intricate and beautiful. And the writing style really drew me in immediately. And those are my best and worst reads of 2018. If you've read any of these, please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of them. Did it make your best or worst list? Or just leave me a comment and let me know what was your best and your worst read of 2018. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.